bad time to be fixing it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Social Pillar. My name is Jared, also known as the GM Chef, and joining me as always are my wonderful companions, co-DMs, co-hosts, Ian and Thea. How are you all?
We are great, aren't we, Ian?
Very well. Yes, I'm very well. I'm very well, guys. How are you? How are you, Thea?
Good. I have a runny nose because it is cold where I am. However, apart from that, I am good. Dean Dog is settled for now.
For now.
For now.
For now.
If you see me abruptly jump up, he has ceased to be settled. Oh, and I got grass seeds all through my pants. Oh, no.
Much information.
I hate that. No, because I walked the dog. No, I don't want grass. I don't need grass as pants. Grass is a lawn.
Grass
I don't need
pants.
lawn pants. Lawn
Well,
chair, lawn pants, lawn.
I mean,
Welcome to
OMGN,
the house.
see you.
It's me.
It's you.
I'm OMGM.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lawn pants.
And I am Roleplay Experience, where I'm part of that as well. I'm here hoping to connect the world one table at a time through role-playing games. And thank you, Jared, for the handover as well. Good to see everyone out there. Loads of people in the chat already.
Hello,
Guys,
everyone.
welcome.
See you all.
And welcome to the Social Pillar, our ongoing conversation about the value of role-playing games and their crafts, cultures, and communities in this world. And before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we're coming to you from Aboriginal land. Here in Australia, I'm coming to you from Darug land, which is around the Penrith region. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're streaming to you from and pay our respects to the elders past and present. Extend those respects to any First Nations people who are watching. This could be either live or in future on YouTube, wherever you may see this. I'm very happy to see you all here and good to see my mates. Guys, good to see you both here. We've got an interesting topic for today because we've got our review of our last week's one-shot episode of Lasers and Feelings. It was a very fun game.
Hang on, I can't do it. There we go. No. Yes.
It's a one-shot.
Yeah. There we go. Hearts.
That's it.
Hearts. I got it. Wait. I got it. There we go.
Pew, pew. And we've got, I believe, actually just putting it out there to both of you, why do you think it's important to do a reflection of games that we're doing, particularly in this conversation at TSP?
I mean,
yeah.
I think that in terms of when you play games, it's very easy just to play and to be present in the game and take away the feelings from that. But I think when we're talking about building communities, we're talking about the importance of gaming, it's really good to take a moment to kind of be introspective and kind of reflect on the process that you went through. And I think that also helps you be very present in that in future, if you're intentionally paying attention to where you are or where you're attending, I think that is a really nice way to be more fully engaged. Does that make sense? I feel like I nearly said
Absolutely.
intentional.
I liked your alliteration, intentionally paying attention to what you're intending. I like it. That's good.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you
Yeah.
think?
On the flip side of that, I, as someone who loves mechanics and loves learning why mechanics do certain things, I think even our pre-ramble about this was very insightful because we definitely are going to look into some detail tonight about what mechanics did. You know, very few mechanics in a one-page RPG like Lasers and Feelings, but for me, that's always very interesting. How does a certain group, certain mindset, certain approach, and then interact with the rules? How does all of that come together? So that's what I'm interested to look over tonight.
Yeah, that's really cool because it is actually, isn't it, about learning about different rule systems and how we engage with them and what we've learned from them. And it's also about the different groups, like our group in particular, the three of us, and how we engage in a game. Watching both of you from my perspective and seeing choices that you made really informed me to go, oh, that's different things I can do, or I wouldn't have thought of that, or, oh, okay, if you're going to be heading this direction, Jared, as my fellow player, then I need to think of options that will go with that or even be more interesting if I go against or whatever. So, guys, thank you. And out there in our chat, if you did watch it last week or if you've watched it in the video as well, this is a chance to be able to add your feedback. We'd love to hear about your thoughts on what it was like. If you didn't get to watch it, recommend you do before you watch this in future. Or just listen in now to see what insights we have, because we've been talking about one-shots lately, about the value of them as a refresh and what we've gained from it. So we're going to kick off. with that
Mm.
in mind. So first of all, yes, there was much chaos. Thank you for bringing that up. And being our illustrious leader there as well,
Mm.
how about we start off? We'll talk the first part of this tonight. We'll talk about preparation. So for
Yep.
Theo, being our glorious GM, what was your preparation for the two of us as players and for bringing this to the stream last week?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we went into when we were talking about one shots, and one of the things that I really like about low prep one shots is that kind of freedom from prep, which sounds fairly self evident. I appreciate how that sounded coming out of my mouth as it did so. But sometimes I think when you are GMing, you can take on a lot. You know, you want to make sure that your players have fun. You want to make sure that they are having an interesting time, that you're exploring aspects of their characters or their character arc, that you're bringing bits of story together. What I like about this kind of game that is designed to be one and done, or walk in, prep there, and it's all finished, is that you don't have that pressure. So it is very freeing in that sense. Not that running with you guys or even running games is ever a grind, but I think sometimes because you care about the enjoyment of people, you can put more pressure on yourself. Whereas I still cared about you guys in having a good time, but set up from the beginning that almost all of the prep was going to be done in session. You know, and Lasers and Feelings is set up so that you can do that. You roll for you talk about your characters, you follow you figure out your ship. And as a GM, you roll for the major plot points. I did have one sort of idea, because I think that's me. I can't quite escape from doing some kind of prep. And I had an idea of how the story could evolve. I definitely had a hook of what I thought that moment of peril would be.
Okay.
You know, like I think as we've talked about in a stream a while ago, having that kind of narrative with something that is a moment of peril, it threatens your players. It's a catalyst to have that. I did have an idea of what that could be, but honestly, that was most of what I prepped. Because I also trust you guys as very good players to be able to roll with it and to have that creativity. I don't think, actually, no, I've played Lasers and Feelings with people who I knew less well at the time. And this kind of game lends itself to just going with the flow and things being created on the fly. So that was what I really enjoyed. And then obviously playing with you guys is great fun. I was reflecting, I think I've run games for Jared. I don't think I've ever GM'd for you, Ian, before. So that was something that I really enjoyed as well, was seeing the interplay between the two of you as players.
Yeah, I think once you have, I think there was a D&D game a while back.
Oh, was it one of the online?
Yeah,
maybe.
Promo.
Like, I'm thinking, but I don't
One shot.
But not at a table, not tabletop.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, then I think it's interesting you said about it, how it lends to people maybe who know each other as well, or it's actually a fun game for that kind of thing. How did you feel about that, Jared, coming into it as a player and your sense of preparation into this game? Have you played it before?
Yeah, had not played Lasers and Feelings, had not had the pleasure. We've been talking about it for so long. It was my entire prep consisted of me putting on a leather jacket and a set of shades and just getting into character, because for me, as a forever GM, I have not really found many groups or many situations that I really thrive in as a player. It's foreign to me. It's something that I would endeavor to do more of, if only to get more of a player perspective to run betting games, as insane as that sounds. But yeah, I do enjoy it. I very much enjoyed this, and it was lovely to have people that I've discussed role-playing games with so much, and to put that into action. So again, kind of leaning into the idea of playing with people that you know, trying something different, is something that we've probably talked about, and I highly advocate. Is, you know, you can play D&D 5th edition for decades and have a great time, I mean, you can now that it's been out for a decade, but you can play the same campaign for
Decades.
years. Yeah,
Decades to
you can
come.
play the same game, the same system for years with the same group of people. And I think we have always been big supporters of the idea of shaking things up, changing GMs, which we've now started kind of rotating amongst ourselves, which is great. And each one of us is going to bring something different. So it was wonderful to see your perspective, Thea, and bringing that in, and it was wonderful to role play with Ian as player on player, because we both immediately went into the idea of let's do the thing. In terms of choosing our one stat that we had, and we were like, okay, I'll do the extreme lasers, and you do the extreme feelings, or it was the other way around.
Yep.
I was the feelings, you were the lasers.
You were the
It was great.
feelings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lasers.
So it was really, really cool. I highly enjoyed it. Yeah.
I love it too. You said about the prep. It was minimal. And it's so good, guys in the chat. If you have played a one-shot game where you had a minimal prep game, please let us know what prep that you've done, because we'd love to hear it. Just on feedback on that for Jared, it made me think of it. You said about getting the jacket. That was something you thought of as well, because it sounds like you had an idea that you came into. And Thea, I thought it was interesting. You said you had an idea as well that you can't help, but it's like, but I think we do. We bring stuff into our game, and because we're keen to play it, and so it's like, what is the hook for you? You know, like what is the thing that you go, hey, I like a Star Trek style kind of game. Like, I really want to play. Kind of like, I couldn't help but think of like the Spock kind of character or something for this.
Yeah.
And I thought, as soon as Jared was Mr. Cool with his jacket as well, I had a fairly strong, like, beautiful. I'm already thinking that way.
Yep.
I'll go into some kind. I thought I'll be an alien of some kind, and I don't know why I thought of the space lizard that we're badly represented on Earth. That people think that we're trying to take over the Earth, and it's like, no, we're just here. And we want to understand you. And it was literally just before it, while we were preparing, I think before we went to stream, that I'm like, I'm trying to think of costume because of Jared. And I mean, being an actor, I happen to have a bit of a costume bank out there, and I was like, oh,
Here's one I prepared earlier.
This is like, and I had the little, what was it, the little ribbed sort of thing, the spikes.
Like a little crest,
The little crest, which was actually from a Draga thing. I also have a tail, but you can't see that so well. So, but it's literally for something we did as a dress up, and done. I thought, get into that. That'll. As fun as it was also light and fun. I got the feel of this game. Yeah, it's not much prep, but it was those little things like a proper costume. I kind of feel like I needed as well. So
I think that's good. There's a good question actually about prep in the chat from Among Mates, asking if there's any limitations on characters, and there actually are in this game, and I think that's one of the things that suits it towards very quick play and quick development is you don't need to think about, I've got 68 different types of characters that I could be. It gives you archetypes, you know. And I think, as we were saying, some of the archetypes, some of them are verbs and some of them were adjectives that you could be. Like there was a hotshot, or you
which
could be like
keeps
a
it broad
scientist.
too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It keeps it broad then.
Yeah. So I think it gives you enough choice that you don't feel restricted or railroaded, and people can be creative, as you guys did with beautiful backstories that already started to be developed. But it also guides you on that. It was quite good. Yeah, I thought it was good that way. How did you guys feel? Did you feel that there were any restrictions on characters?
Jared, what did you think?
I am a heavy believer in limiting choices for the sake of creativity. If you do, like, I'm much like you, Theo, when you said that you felt sort of like you needed to do a little bit of prep. So you needed to have some sort of idea of where you were going with it. And I'm much the same. Having some direction is always a great idea. And I think just having a few choices gives you a springboard into doing your own thing. We didn't have a session zero or any kind of precursor or prep or discussion about what kind of thing we were running. I said after the fact, I don't know if it was on stream, it was leaning into a space horror, but we played it more like a comedy. And my character was more, Firefly as a sci-fi reference. So Ian had an idea, he saw Lizard, went there, blah, 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 Spock, etc., that universe. And I was more, okay, hotshot pilot, let's just be suave and think on our feet and all the rest of it. So they gelled and we made it work because we didn't have anything that was telling us what to do specifically, but we also didn't have unlimited options where we both could have gone very different directions. I could have been a really, again, there's also just the unspoken generally in a group of people who understand and know each other, where we're not going to be adversarial, especially for the sake of a one shot, not just the one shot that's going to be broadcasted for other people to enjoy, out of respect for each other. We have that understanding that we may as well be cooperating, and we'll push one way, and if everybody follows, we know we're going in the right direction, kind of a thing. So all of that happened, which was really good as well.
We've leaned into, and this is for those out there, for anyone who has acting kind of background or anything, the yes and or the yes but rule kind of thing really helps when it comes to collaborative play. And I felt that there were times where we were like making choices, like, okay, yes, and then this, or yes, but then this happens as well. For me, I had a brief read of the rules just before, because I was like, I've got to have a chance. And it was, I agree. I think limitations when it comes to the boundaries of the style helps making choices, archetypes, things like that. And I was really appreciative of that. I actually got some character picks as prep. Jared, you've got to post those awesome AI picks that you made. Check, guys, if you've got them for the chat, that would be awesome.
We need like an AI art channel for our Discord.
We need to just chuck it in the Discord, because I threw together some things with Meta AI's imagination tool, and it did a pretty good job. I think it's using DALL-E 3, and it was really cool to just quickly get a visualization on that. It's a fun tool in the RPG space, because you can quickly put an image to a concept.
And just for ideas, isn't it? Just for to riff off. And the only other prep that I did, particularly as being a player, I deliberately had to pull the reins back as a GM, and I was like, okay, I know I have a certain amount of time, really dive into the time, but know that I should have a limit, so I can then hand over to Jared and see what Jared character wants, and we can riff and then pass back to the GM leading us. Where are we going? What do we do? When do we respond? And listening out for those moments. So it was, it's, shifting gear as a GM to go, playing, pull back, not leading.
And I think that's an interesting thing in terms of having to pull back as a player when you are a GM and you're used to leading. And I think also because you've run a couple of games for us as well, do you find yourself thinking, and this is something that I've noticed in myself, is that sometimes you would sacrifice something you'd want to do because you didn't want that to impede on other people's enjoyment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's vital as a GM for the group's enjoyment, and sometimes even for individual players, if it's helping bring them into a game, so that you're like, I've just got to not bring this in right now. This is, I think that's important.
Speaking of bringing in, we've just had a raid from most wonderful Bexplore. Thank you so much, Bex. I know that you guys were doing some game creation. Welcome in, Raiders. Lovely to have all of you who may not have been here before. We are the Social Pillar. We are talking about reflections on a game of Lasers and Feelings that we played last week. I was you said very nice things about me, but I would say I was the on my edge of the seat, why did they split the party in the first 5 minutes, DM? And our beautiful players. It was a big ship with a crew.
And there's three crew for a big ship.
And I strapped myself in the pilot seat, and then you gave me a very legitimate reason to leave, and I wasn't mad about it.
He's not leaving the bridge, so I'm going to get out of here.
But yeah, everybody who's just come in, if you have questions about running one-shots, about RPGs, and you want one of these two who can put sentences together better to answer it, please feel free to pop your questions in the chat. We always love people. How does Lasers and Feelings rate to other systems?
I'm amazed.
Would love to come back to that towards the end if I could among mates, because I think it would be nice to get that reflection after we've thought. I hope that's okay with you.
That's a good idea, because as we're going through, I'm sort of like picking up stuff actually to see how it's gone. So that'll lead us in. We've just had a bit of a chat for those of you who joined us about the prep that we did. I'm going to shift on to the actual play of the game and the experience. So kicking back to our GM here, VR. What's the term? Is it GM for this game?
It is GM. Is it? Actually, GM. It is GM, yes.
Okay.
Because I know it's different depending on the game.
Yeah.
So what were your enjoyable moments of running the game?
Yeah, look, I think it was getting those little moments of inspiration. So as I mentioned, I didn't do a lot of prep, but I had that kernel of an idea. And kernel is probably an apt term to use because it was contamination in the ship somewhere that was going to grow. And that was going to be the precipitating event, the crisis that people had to deal with. What I really enjoyed about that and taking off was picking up on that and riffing off just little things that you said and coming up with that story as we went. So it went from there's contamination somewhere, and I think the engine went off, and so I think Ian, your character, went down to engineering to check it out. And I was like, coolant, you're checking the coolant. That's where it's going to be. And I'm not quite sure. Oh, and the kidney. When you scanned Captain Darcy and found a kidney-shaped thing in his head, and I was like, contamination, you know, like lantana, like vines, like kidney beans. And kidney beans, an alien kidney bean, became our antagonist. And that kind of those moments where you just go, oh, this is cool. I think it's funny. I don't know if anyone else will get it or think it's funny, but I do, and it was a lot of fun. So that's probably one of the most, and also just having you two as players, because both of you get into character in different ways as well, and you both played very different characters. So that was a lot of fun for me, sort of seeing how you interacted with each other and the little role play moments. Yeah, good fun. And the gravity floating in the air.
That was cool.
Quite fun.
I do actually have to ask about that there, because I'm pretty sure what happened was I was sort of improvising, laying down some lore and stuff, and I was like, oh no, this is something, and I mentioned something about gravity, and you were immediately like, yes, and now the gravity doesn't work.
Absolutely.
I had a feeling, and I was like, damn it, why did I say that? But like, that is just that is quintessential good GMing, is taking something that the player's thrown out and gone, reality, enjoy. Like,
oh, you said it. It's canon now.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that too. I thought that was so good. It was so fun because it's such a trope, you know, and when things start going wrong in a spaceship. But it was so good because that was one thing, the fact that you brought in the stuff about engineering and the coolant, the different locations in the ship and the different systems of the ship you had a really good knowledge of, and it was great because as soon as you brought them up, I'm like, oh yeah, I get this, that's right, we've got to head to Jared, when your character, where did he have to go? Was it to the crew bunks or something like this to look for your drink, I think it was, or something?
I found some more drink, but I was looking for
coolant. It was coolant crystal thing. No, it was fuel crystals.
It was fuel crystals.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Because we've got a very inefficient system.
That actually ties into the question among mates just asked in the chat. Did having the ship have big guns and go fast impact the gameplay? Not those two, but the fact that it was fuel hungry. That was something that we riffed off, and that then became the reason that we could get Jared's character out of the pilot's seat and sort of be able to move the story that way. Not that having him stay in the one spot would have been a problem, but it was a lot of fun having a reason that he had to get up. So we could bring in more things.
Yeah, it makes it more dynamic, more to interact, more about the world to interact with as well. Which is important. And then embrace it. Like, again, it's just adding on to I threw out, you know, the idea that the gravity was going to be affected. You said, yes, it is now affected. You guys are free floating. And so that just made, you know, the sort of cliche of moving around the ship in zero G made it so much more interesting as well. And you were able to describe, I think it was Ian's character had like all the paper and stuff floating around him, and then you know it just worked so well for narrative descriptions as well.
Yeah, I had that moment actually, because there were a couple of moments, the coolant thing, and when you were saying that it was like there was a growth and it was starting to get bigger as well, and when it started speaking, that freaked the crap out of me. But you said there was something about another riff about answering the question from among mates. The big guns thing, we hadn't brought it in, and I just remember when it was starting to take over the system of the ship, and I thought, how are we going to do this? I thought, weaponry. Okay, we've got weaponry. What if it actually has something that's a self-protective measure with the weaponry that hasn't been tested?
Right. Yeah.
I thought, we'll bring it in, see like this, and then you just ran with it there and went, yes, it's a prototype. It hasn't been tested well. I'm like, awesome, crap, but awesome. This is okay. Let's go with it. That was fun. That was So and it was just a riff on what we had as a setup. Yeah. So that was, and just going with it was fun.
Yeah, much fun. So
any other enjoyable moments that you guys had?
Mm. Um, I would like to sort of touch on the kidney beans sort of thing, because I don't think at any point you did specifically say beans. I was not
Mm.
thinking vegetation. I was thinking this was
Ah.
some. I was thinking that this is some other thing that has, because it started with the captain. I was thinking it's got human DNA and it's trying to do like weird things. It obviously had some sentience because we were conversing with it. So
Mm.
again, like, because I love horror and I love space horror even more, I was thinking these are little slimy weird flesh
Ah.
kidneys. So that was
Oh.
my mind movie that I had running. So for me it
Mhm.
was even more slightly weird and gross and whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I love
So
that though.
but it was great. And then when I was trying to put the fuel crystals into the thing and there was these nodules and stuff, I'm thinking massive, like, and I apologize for using these words, pus-filled sores. That was my movie.
Yep.
Oh,
I
I'm thinking
know.
like nodules when you look down the back of someone's throat and they've got
That's
nodules.
exactly, someone has
Mhm.
got a really bad throat infection. So yeah, like we didn't have to take it that far or paint that picture, but I'm always very interested in the language that a GM uses in order to paint those mind movies, in order to sort of give everyone an idea of the shots and scenes and the angles, the lighting that's used. Very early on in my GMing, I did specifically use sort of cinematic language around that, and you would have, you know, a rising shot from this perspective, and we look from a greasy window down onto the street as you all walk through, instead of it always just being this happens and that happens, which leaves a
Yeah.
lot of open interpretation. So that
Yeah.
was something interesting I wanted to just reflect on, is we all were
Yeah.
probably having, and this happens in every group at every session, is
Mm.
everyone's got a slightly different reality that they're visualizing.
Yeah. And I
yeah.
love that. But I love what you say about sort of trying to make it a very visceral sensory experience. And that's something that
Mm,
I've always intentionally done when
Mm,
GMing is I try not just to talk about what you see, but what you feel, you know, the moisture on your skin, the slight
mm,
humidity that makes it feel
always.
sticky, like you're wrapped in a warm blanket. If there's
yeah.
dust in your face, you can feel it on your teeth, so you get that
Yeah.
grittiness. I
Mm,
love trying to involve all of those senses in my descriptions.
mm,
And yeah, I think it is fun. It also could be sort of having being a film school dropout is getting very cinematic with
mm.
things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that sort of. I also love the fact that we had very different ideas of
Yeah,
where it would be. I just managed to unplug my headphones. So
amazing.
just bear with me one
Hi,
second.
Thea. We love you,
We
Thea, and
can
we love all of your
we can
wonderful ideas. Yeah, it is truly an art form in and of itself.
yeah.
That ability to paint a vivid picture for people, and I've definitely encouraged, you know, through the online groups and communities, I've definitely sort of encouraged people. Yeah, if you do get sort of stuck with like how to paint the description of a room or something, just
Mm,
choose one or two, and then maybe three when you start getting
Yeah.
comfortable of the five senses. Sight is
yeah.
is always going to be a default, because
Yeah.
Mm,
characters need to be able to know what they immediately see around them. It is probably our most passive sense. And then think about what's going to convey the most information, or the most sort of set the mood or the scene as quickly as possible.
yeah.
And I think you did that very
Yeah.
well, Thea. You did describe the
Oh,
temperature of
thank
the
you.
air, the humidity as he was around the coolant, all the rest of it. You said, you know, when I had that whiskey while I was rummaging for the fuel crystals, you know, I immediately took that on and was like, yeah, I can feel the burn in my throat.
Yeah.
All of those things. So that's taste and that's touch. There's obviously just general senses of temperature, what you smell. I'm always a big advocate for saying what people smell, because it
Yeah.
is so close. The olfactory system is
Yep.
so closely tied with our memories.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you've ever smelled something and you immediately get thrown back to a time and place, very powerful
That's
tool that I use a lot.
Yeah.
when smell, you're absolutely right, because it gets links to memory, and for different people, that memory, it also has emotional ties, tends to
Yep.
as well, which is very interesting. So that
Mm.
means people can respond in very interesting ways.
Yeah.
I love that the visuals. Basically, as soon as you said these vegetable kind of tentacles are reaching, I'm like, oh, this is horrible. Like Jared, I was getting the horror sci-fi like alien
Mhm.
straight away. Like, and I was thinking it was animal biomass rather than vegetable at first as well. So I thought that was going to they were multiplying. When you said vegetables,
Yeah.
straight up, no, we're going to become
Yeah.
one with it. And when you had the voice of one with us, I'm like, oh crap. They're like simple intelligence. They don't care. Just be one of us. It's like,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, loads of fun. Thanks for the the feedback, there, guys. We're going to go into another question now. Just looking into aside from the role playing side and the creative, let's have a look at the rules and how that worked. How was it for you, Thea, running the rules for this game for us?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. So it is a very rules light, but weirdly enough, I had the PDF open in front of me. Of course, all GMs should always have a ready reference of their rules handy, but just simple things like remembering which was lasers and which was feelings compared to the number. I had to keep looking back at that just to remember. I quite liked the very simple mechanics, so you get added dice and that's how you sort of titrate the difficulty. Although I did struggle a little bit to figure out difficulty, and I think I actually mentioned that while we were playing, is trying to manage difficulty is quite different to how I have in other systems that I've played. So that was an interesting one. But I did like the fact that, it was just a single roll or a couple of dice. I also like that there's actually more rules that apply to the DM creating the game. And so in terms of the creating the space adventure, you roll 4 d6 in sequence to give you the main plot points, which I liked. But also part of me, when one of them came up, I was like, oh, no, that's not what they're doing. They're doing this instead. So putting my own spin on things, which, this system is very much very, very open to. It says, here, take this, do what you like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I thought that, and probably the only challenge I had was with that, figuring out how to manage difficulty. But how about you guys? How did you feel with sort of a rules like, and a different system, a very different system to sort of games that I think we all typically play?
Jared, what did you feel as well coming into this with just the simple rules? And did it make sense early on, or did it take some work?
No, it is very straightforward. So even to answer Among Mates' question, what is lasers? What is lasers and what is feelings? So because it leans into basically those two categories of what you may be rolling for, you're either going to be rolling on the feeling side of things or on the laser side of things. So lasers is your intuition, your charisma. Did I say lasers?
Other way
around. The lasers is your technology, your engineering, which is what Ian's character was leaning into, logic, scientific, analytic, all of that sort of stuff. And then feelings is the other side of that. It's your heart, it's your all of those sorts of things, your intuition, your gut instinct, and also your ability to empathize and maybe just think of things in terms of what is the impact of what I'm doing, and not just what is the right, correct answer for any outcome. So that's how I was taking those on. And I found that it was such a beautiful way to think about things. I do like sort of two-stat systems. There's a couple of different ones, like Honey Heist, for example, where you have bear and criminal. And then having just a single target number that you get to choose at the beginning. It's also kind of like a choose your own difficulty in a choose your own adventure book, because you can start out in a way that is probably more straightforward. So you choose between 2 and 5, and I chose the 2, closer to the feelings end of the scale, and Ian chose 5 towards the laser side. So we immediately embraced what that was going to mean in terms of how challenging each role was going to be, and it was lovely to see that we both were able to do multiple roles in both categories, succeed in some, narrowly fail in others.
Really not succeed in others.
I think there was. Did you actually fail any tasks?
Oh, I failed a couple, at least one, I think 2. But just to answer Among Mates D&D as an example, there was something I needed to do, which was based on lasers. It was very logical. It was using the system, and I had experience in it, which was great with me. Because of that, it was linked to the laser side, and that means because I had 5, that helps that I needed to roll 5 or under. And so, because it's very easy for me to do that kind of thing. And then later on, I was trying to and I succeeded very well. I think I even got an
You got
actual
3
laser,
successes, yeah,
which
and you got a
is
laser's feelings,
yeah,
and you
laser's
Yeah.
got
feelings,
3 successes, I
which
think, on
is
that one.
if you get
Yeah.
exactly the 5, it's like a bonus. You get inspiration or something.
You get to ask the GM a question about
Yeah,
to get additional insight, which
that was
I
cool.
love as a
I like that
unique
rule.
mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the flip side was when I had to do a feelings check, and I was trying to convince this bizarre alien organism that I was trying to connect with it, even though I was freaking
Yeah.
out at the time. And he was
Yeah.
very clearly going, "That sounds like a feelings thing.
Mm.
What justification can you give of your experience?" And I gave this lame excuse. I can't even remember what it was. You were very generous for me, and this is what I was thinking back actually on it.
Mm.
I would want you to be harder on me to go, yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty lame. Yeah, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's it. One die. That's it. See if you can get. And because it was a feelings, I have to roll higher than my
Mm.
score, and that's a 5. So I was
Yep.
screwed. And so that's the difference in the rules. And I really like the simplicity of that. And I like, Jared, yeah, that we both went go extreme. That's it.
Yep.
Let's just see, and also to test the rules, because it was a chance to have fun with that too. And just
Yeah.
if you're gonna succeed. And if you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
See how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other rules, like any other things that you remember from the rules that really kind of like were enjoyable or kind of crunchy, just interesting that you had for yourself?
Yeah, look, I think I do take what you say that sort of I was generous with things. I think that reflects me as a GM. I tend to be more, sure, let's give it a go. And if you can have resources. And I think that's also because I tend to play with less experienced players. So I will kind of tend to want to tip the odds in their favor. May the odds be ever in your favor. And yeah, but I mean, failure can be just as fun and actually can be a lot funnier. But I think, yeah, I probably, if I did it again, I would go more down the making you work a little bit harder to get those extra dice.
Wasn't a criticism. I hope you didn't take it.
Yeah, no, not at all. No, not at all.
I felt that we've got that kind of rapport where we can go, how did this work? And it's like, we can go harder.
Sure.
And it was our first time playing it. Yeah.
It's first time playing it. But I think also one thing was with the laser feelings. I had to keep reminding myself that when you got a laser feelings, that you guys could ask a question. And I think that could have opened up some really interesting directions for the story to go in. And you asked some good questions. I can't remember exactly some of them. But yeah, Quinn has actually put a really interesting comment in chat. And this is something that I think we reflected on briefly. Playing characters designed to test the rules. And I think as GMs, I would posit we are more inclined to create characters that do that. We want
You
to...
did, Jared. I know I did. You did as well, didn't you?
We don't want to break the game. But we trust that we
there
won't.
needs to be that trust. That's the thing is I've definitely had groups where it has been a more frustrating experience because there was more meta, which we have done an episode and talked about, rules and min-maxing, so sacrificing some stats in favor of others so that you get an optimal play style out of something. I'm not as someone who plays a lot of video and tabletop games, I'm not against that at all. And as long as as long as everyone's doing that at the group and you don't just have one character who can't be hit and hits really hard, for example, because they've just dumped con and strength in the D&D context. But I am someone who likes to look at rules, and if I can optimize and kind of tweak things in order to achieve a certain thing, be really good at a certain thing, and that's the kick that I'm getting out of it. I talk about this a lot from the GM side, which is I like to look at what the players get out of. What are they what are they trying to do with their character? What are they trying to achieve? What kind of cool things are they trying to do? And if we can lean into that, that's great. But there needs to be a limit, and there is definitely a clear stage where things get broken. And then again, in a simple system like this, it's kind of hard to do that, I would say. It's so elegant. We're talking sort of 10th, 11th level plus in a D&D campaign where some absolutely bonkers stuff can start happening. that's when there needs to be that trust and that respect that it's not just going to instantly ruin encounters, because GMs, you need to, as a player, you need to understand that maybe the GM has actually spent an entire week, evening, sometimes thinking months leading up to a big epic battle. And if you neutralize that in one fell swoop, that can be either be the most epic, memorable thing ever, or it can actually be quite crushing from a GM because you were hoping for something that didn't happen. So that's an expectations thing. And that's an awareness thing. So you might not have, you may have spent lots of creative time doing that, but you may not have been able to nitpick and analyze all of the 6-player characters that you've got in your group. And you just didn't pick up that one ability that, you know, monk very rarely uses because they don't really want to just stun lock something. And then one day they bring that to the wrong place at the wrong time. Feelings can get hurt. That's just something that I've seen and experienced. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but I think that comes down to that trust as well. And also we've got Quinn, and Purdy was here earlier, who I've played with before and played not intentionally broken characters, but characters that were designed to test the limits. And I think when you're playing with people who you've got that level of trust with, that works because you're less likely to fall into somebody deploying their souped up OP character at the wrong time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because I just saw in the notes as well the Twilight Cleric in D&D 5th edition, that domain. I've never played it, and in reading it, I was going, wow, there's some OP to this that could really be interesting. It's funny, the simpler the rule system, the harder it is to break, which is very, you know, it's good to know, particularly for one-shots. And that's why it's good to be able to push it because there's so few rules to actually work with, and it comes more down to how do we play it. And I think you're right. Actually, both of you talked about the sense of trust and the sense of expectation. And I think that's such a vital thing there. We know each other well, that really helps. We have an expectation already of the kind of games we want to play. But at the same time, even I think that we did talk about, even in prep, about what kind of game that we want to play. And this is a collaborative exercise. That we're here to have fun and we're here to test the rule. We're here to see what it's like. We're GMs, we want to test the rules. But we also want to have fun. We just want to play it. So that's actually the goal. I think it's never something to be held lightly to establish that with the players, with your group, and say, guys, we're here to have fun first and foremost together. So feel free to try and push the limits of the rules, absolutely, and go to town. But the aim is that we're all here to have fun and to get the most out of this style of game. I think establishing the style of the kind of game really helps too, like sci-fi.
Interesting with the style of game, kind of going back, and you know that's incredibly important, the stuff that you've said there, and I think also that everyone in chat's reflecting it as well. You know, sort of whether they wanted to the importance of having that trust, but also, and this is something we could talk about in another episode, is what makes a good player. You know, we've talked about GMs as players, but there are certainly some people out there who are remarkable players. I'm thinking Emily Axford, Travis Willingham. They are wonderful players, and that would be an interesting thing to explore, what makes a good player. But in terms of the type of game we wanted to play, we knew that it would be a little bit off the wall. We all like to entertain, so there was going to be an element of chaos. I did not think it was going to get as deep into space horror as it did. That was not quite the plan. Yeah, I know. I should have anticipated it.
But that was adapting to the circumstance, wasn't it?
And that was, and it flowed. That was the thing, and that's what I had a lot of fun with. Is that the story flowed, even though it wasn't as pre-planned. Like from that germ's a good word. From that kind of kernel of there's contamination somewhere, it now became this contamination is sentient. And this contamination's trying to make friends in its own way, non-consensual hugs. And it could have gone in lots of directions, like when it started coming for you, Ian, out of the coolant system. And I had very much that sort of, aliens kind of, this is bursting out towards you kind of thing. That could have gone lots of different directions, but it went horror. And I was like, where we're going, and
It did.
I love it.
It went kind of Gremlins horror, not like full on sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was like PG verging onto M sort of stuff, which I was like, and I thought having that line of comedy always there kind of helped it. I felt, and I forgot there was a moment I really enjoyed where I started realizing it was sentient. I went, oh, I tried to communicate with it because that was my secret.
That tied into your thing. Yes, the character goal.
So that was fun. Yeah, with part of the
I loved that, talking about things that were great. I loved that we were able to bring out both of your secret goals in that game.
In beautiful ways where we were directly faced off with the entity. As yours came out to you, you were like, okay, well, I have to start reaching out to this thing. That's my thing. And then I had... speaking of things, I had the thing moment where I had what I thought was the captain in the spacesuit walking up to me, and I'm like, well, my hidden secret agenda is shoot the bad guys. It was like we planned it, honestly, but it was really, really, really good. And that was probably the best takeaway from that as well, was the fact that I don't think it's necessarily written in the rules, correct me if I'm wrong, that it is a secret mission. Like it's a personal mission. You don't have to keep it hidden from the rest of the group. 100%. But we lent into that. We opted for that. And it was actually really enjoyable. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I like that you suggested to us that it can be personal, it can be secret. And I actually like that in the games, but it's like that's something that can be brought out, that you can bring into. You don't tell people straight up about.
It is a thing in the Alien roleplay system, though. Yeah. It is a very specific thing that you do in that game, is you have personal agendas, because the idea of that is not just party is all buddy and teamed up, and they're all trying to just escape the ship.
An Ash.
There's a company man.
Yeah, there's always a company man, and that's the thing, is there's going to be personal agendas. So someone's going to just try and survive, or they're taking advantage of this situation and they're going to try and get something valuable as well as survive. There's the people who are just, who are going to report back to the company when they get back. It's all of those things and more. So
it brings it in life, doesn't it?
It really makes it dynamic. Having personal motivations for your character is a big thing. So being such a sort of compact system, it achieves a lot in terms of thinking about how you're playing your archetype. You don't have to worry about doing the right thing, because it's just try and do the thing, and there's a way to roll and check for that. The system also says, like, hack me. It actually has a little blurb in the corner where it's like, share your hacks and like what you do, reskin it, tell your own stories with the idea of just having, a scale of stats and rolling a couple of dice. And I think, having that success scale that it has, where you barely succeed, sort of, succeed with a twist and the rest of it, you could immediately by default increase difficulty there as well, by saying you only get one success, it's not good enough. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm only starting with one dice, I really need to be doing things. So you'd have to look at it. But that's just the system mechanics rolling around in my logic brain.
Yeah.
Well, you brought it up. It's a good thing to think about now as we're getting towards the end of our session today, our episode. You said about takeaways, and that was an interesting one about those kind of rules and how they work. If you want to keep going with that, Jared, what other takeaways did you have from playing that last week, and things you liked, things you borrowed?
Yeah, kind of how I fired off in this episode is like, it is very interesting for me, who is a long-time GM who absolutely loves running. It is a little bit difficult for me sometimes to get into the mindset of a player. I like to keep my brain occupied. I think in a smaller player sort of more intimate session like this, it's a lot easier for me to kind of go, right, there's not going to be a huge amount of downtime between my turn. And this is going to sound kind of selfish, but it's really how my brain works. I need interaction. Like, I'm either switched off or I'm switched on. And so as a GM, I like being switched on. I like being immersed. And then there is nothing else going on for me other than this world, running it, making it fun and riffing off the players. When you're a player and you're switching that around, it definitely, and again, I need, what I also mentioned, I need to realize that there's creative limitations as well. So Ian, I think you experienced this where we were kind of throwing ideas out and we were maybe pulling lore into the reality and making it canon and things like that. But because there was this trust, everything we've discussed over the last hour here, it was very, very comfortable. It was a very welcoming experience. I felt like I could do that. I also found what you felt, Ian, which was, GM brain, go slower than that, because we need to understand that this is our host. We put the trust into her.
Host talking about parasites.
Yeah, you see what I did there. And it's not a matter of, it's a matter of, okay, trying to do some stuff. And because I think I enjoyed the horror-esque touch to it, it was definitely a point where pacing was essential for that to be for the scene changes as well, because you can amplify up something and hold it on a cliffhanger, or you can allow that break to sort of mellow out, and it's like intensity and mellow out. So that's what I took from it, is in a nice small dynamic like that, I was never sort of like my brain wasn't drifting and wanting me to fidget with something. I felt fully engaged the whole time, which was an absolutely amazing experience, and it's wanting me to play more.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
How did that feel, Thea, for you? What was hearing that, and also what was your takeaway from running this particular game?
Yeah, look, I think I love one shots. There's no secret there. I love short games. I love things that could be, because I have a very limited attention span, but I love things that are geared towards a little bit of chaotic and a little bit of inspiring that kind of creativity, and is set up to allow people to bounce that creative ball between each other, if that kind of makes any sense. And so I just really enjoyed playing with you two, but playing with two players, I haven't run a lot of games. I've run some with like one or two people, and it does change the vibe. It's, your normal size, like 3 or more people, you can bounce between people, even if they decide to all split up. But with 2 people, it is much more intimate. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being able to work with the 2 of you to build that story in that smaller team setting. And you did split the party incredibly early. So that actually allowed me to bounce back and leave cliffhangers. It's like, you do this, we're going to cut back to the other player.
That was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Cool. And I thought as well, as soon as you said split the party straight away, and I didn't even think of that. I just thought, I was so in character at that point going, I have to get down at engineering to do this. And as soon as you did that, my GM brain kicked in and went, oh, crap, I don't want to do that to you.
It was great.
By the way, that's why I was thinking, have we got comms? Can we talk to each other throughout the entire time? You're like, great, good. And it was like a hand wave straight away. And how can we roll with it to keep it? So that I think that probably, tell me if I'm right, Jared, that helped that we could keep in contact, because we know that we can always call out to each other.
For sure. I am actually a big fan of splitting the party, to be honest. It allows for people to get themselves in their own kind of trouble, and there's no friends to save them. I love doing scene changes. I love, because again, I've also been asked the question of, how do I manage this, when people are doing this and doing that. For some reason, that does come easy to me, and I can do my little mind palace of each thing, and I can kind of suspend reality there. And I also have a very good sense of, okay, how much time has passed here, and then if I think it's gone past where we've last picked up, I'll go, while that's happening, we do this. So I do understand that it can be a big undertaking for a lot of GMs, but I think we leaned into it and had a good time with it.
And I think it's also, we're comfortable with that. I think that I can see sort of when you start GMing, if your party decides to split into 3 different places, that can be a little tricky to keep track of. But I also think sort of the backgrounds that we've got, sort of in drama, sort of cinema, that kind of thing. Cinematic, don't I sound like a wanker? But in being comfortable to split between different scenes and understanding pacing and understanding, being familiar with story, and that you can do that, and that's okay. I think maybe for newer DMs, sometimes that's a little intimidating. It's like, I've got to finish off this bit with this particular person before I can move on to the next. No, you don't. Leave them with the sort of Damocles hanging over their head. They've just loosened the knot, and now what did happen? Well, we're going to go find out what the group that went to have tea time are doing now. Because it allows you to build that tension. So, it's
that's
good fun.
Good experience, isn't it? I think
you, Quinn.
Picking up. that's like, yeah, it comes from experience playing over and over. So it's like you said, for new GMs, if you feel kind of intimidated, just build to the group. You know, what's working for you guys. You know, if you want to keep them together, it's like you are trapped in the room. How are you going to get out? And it's like that keeps them together. Or it's like if you're feeling more confident with it, go with it. And I agree. Our group, we kind of have an idea. Just the two of us. A lot easier, kind of like split between the two of us.
Yeah, starting small in less intense situations is also a good idea. Like down in the 9th level of your mega dungeon, probably not the greatest idea. I would think you're a pretty decent GM at that point. But if you are sort of like wanting to get that, like just do. My favorite thing to do is actually like when there's downtime, when they're back at the inn or at the campsite, things like that. Well, there's no pressure. And it might just be you and one other player. It's actually one of my favorite things to do is break away from the adventuring and the hijinks and all the rest of it, and just be like, okay, what are each of you doing? And I will very intentionally go, Elf, what are you currently doing? What would you be finding yourself doing at the campsite? Are you prepping? Are you setting up a tent? Are you foraging for firewood? And then there might be just like a little thing where they wander off into the woods by themselves. They see a beautiful white stag. Maybe that's a clue. Maybe it's not. You did a little thing, and that's a wonderful thing. And everybody can just digest for a second. And then maybe someone's preparing a lovely meal for everyone. They look in their bag. Oh no, the tomatoes got crushed. Oh, what a silly thing. I absolutely thrive for those moments. And I think that that's a really soft entry to that. Instead of going, okay, you guys can go left or right, and people go, whew.
Yeah, I'm going left, okay, I'm going right, and I'm going up.
And then there's, I think, the anxiety that could end up being 2 combat encounters, and then you're running, you know, there's all of that. I've done split combat encounters, and I just go, right, when it gets to your turn, it's over there, and we just do it. Everyone roll the same initiative, easier.
Yeah. And I think it's... Go on ahead. Yeah. No, you go. Split. Okay, go through it once.
Just the takeaway for me, having simple rules, just how it enables gameplay, how it enables creativity, and how especially it enables that sense of, okay, well, that's the limit of the rules. So it really is up to us. And that means it really helps you know you need to engage with your players, your fellow players and your GM to how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to tell this together? I really enjoyed that, and I want to do that more in games as well, so that it's like less reliant on the rules, but just to simply go, you're in this particular situation. What do you do? And really just hear what people bring to it, so that we can go, we'll add this to it, and we'll do this, or we'll work it out. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've sort of a few comments, sort of people starting to run single player or small groups and splitting teams. Sounds like sort of, we have got quite a few GMs in the chat, I know.
Yeah. Right in the chat, guys. Thanks for the questions and the comments. Yeah. And there was one actually I saw, I can't recall who did this, my apologies, but someone said we could do an actual episode just talking about splitting the party. And I think
that would be a lot of fun.
But sadly, we are coming towards the end of our day. So for reflecting on that awesome one shot that we had for last week. It was a blast there. Thanks for running that. It was a good introduction to that game.
Thank you both for playing and for being such great players. It was, I think, it was really refreshing and a lot of fun.
I like riffing off Jared. I want to play more games with you, man, as a player.
Me too. It was some good time.
Good enough. So, but thank you, chat, and that's it for us for this week. We're going to be heading. We're going to be back next week. Jared, what if you have it up and ready there as well?
I'm so ready.
We are so planned.
Always. No, next week we're answering questions, and not that we haven't had an amazing torrent of questions from everyone in the chat this week. Torrent like a flow of water.
We tolerate like your questions, chat.
We tolerate we encourage and we open ourselves to the collective. We do want to hear from everyone. I might even just hang back for a minute and kind of troll through all these questions that have come through. Thank you everyone for firstly the raid and everyone who's stuck around and tuned in. We do have a Discord. I will find a link and get that to you in a second. But next week we're basically just doing like not a quick fire round, but we're doing like a lot of commonly asked questions out there, diving into our experience of those things. So not so much taking one of those questions and expanding it into the episodes that we do when we do find that there's a lot, but we're each going to maybe grab a couple of questions each that we find are suiting us and our styles. I, for example, love talking systems and mechanics and things like that. So we'll probably talk about, to actually bring it back to Among Mates D&D. How did we find this interacts with other systems? That might be something we actually talk about, because
We said we'd come back to that. We
Yeah.
didn't. Oops.
but we kind of touched on it towards the end, because we did have to compare it to other things where where things can get out of hand with more and more complex systems. The more variety you add, the more interesting it gets. And just like Alien roleplay system, which we almost leaned into with the simple mechanics, it did a lot of those things as well. And I can see it being a very hijinks oriented system to answer that question. But more questions will be answered like that next week. So if you guys do specifically have questions, we are going to be probably focusing on chat, answering all the things that you guys have. Please think of your most poignant questions. But other than that, we are going to just have some of the internet's most popular sort of questions, like how do you create a memorable and long-lasting campaign that spans generations and whatever.
Maybe.
I just thought of the most generic thing I could think of at the top of Reddit. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been the Social Pillar.
Let us know as well, guys, if you've got questions as well that you want to ask GMs, us as fellow GMs, or just generally about how we run games. We'd love to hear it. We'll be focusing on ones that definitely resonate with us. So, I'm
going to get that Discord link out to everyone. It's in the chat now.
Get that Discord up there. Please join our wonderful community. I mean, you're a part of our community, but please join us on the Discord. We are there. If you have suggestions for us, please pop them in the Discord. Speaking of, we also have a YouTube channel. It is, I will say, a little bit behind. Oh, I remember the other thing I was going to say. Why are we doing the questions? What's the special occasion that we might be celebrating?
We're coming up to a special occasion. So next week is going to be our 49th episode. And so we'll be answering questions as like what Forever GMs get asked, so we can kind of Q&A it for next week. But then in 2 weeks' time, it is our 50th episode at last for the Social Pillar. Thank you everyone out there for supporting us so that we can
not the last forever.
And so that we'll see what AI can do for us. So yes, guys, 50th episode in 2 weeks, and we'll be looking back on those as well, and looking back at the entire first 50 episodes at that point. So we'd love you to join us for that too.
Yes.
And on that note, are we raiding anything for tonight?
We need to raid out. We were raided. I think it would be kind to do so. So thank you so much, Bexpol. Thank you everyone for coming back, sticking around, not coming back. I do hope to see you again. Please return for more shenanigans and conversations that end in rambles like this. But yeah, we're gonna raid out, as is the tradition here. But yeah, I've also just had an interesting idea. We haven't really talked about how it's 50 years of D&D this year. And like it would almost be too poignant to talk all about 50 years of D&D on our 50th episode. But it's going to be a celebration of the Social Pillar over the last 50 episodes. It's been an amazing journey, and we've only got bigger and better plans coming. So yes, we've just been trying to stay consistent. We've kind of restricted our schedule a little bit so that we can bring more energy and kind of concentrate all of the information into more valuable episodes for everyone who's tuning in. We really, really do want to hear everyone's feedback. We want to know what's happening for you guys. Are you guys enjoying this? What else do you guys want to see? Please, please, please listen to us. Listen to us. Please tell us what you want to hear. That's what I meant to say.
Let us tell you what you want.
Please listen to us. We want to help.
You will tell us.
You will tell us what we should say. Do we have a raid ready? We're going out.
We do. We're going to go visit Let's Roll for Dragons, who are playing a Mad Max-inspired D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think sounds very exciting.
Furiosa is in the air. So
we might even have some looks there.
As we're about to jump into that, guys, thank you. Your support helps us lift the level of conversation around the world about role-playing games and their uncharted values in society. Thank you. Thank you, Thea. Thank you, Jared, for joining again. Thank you, everyone in chat. Mwah. And for raiders, for new people, for long-termers.
Everybody.
In a couple of weeks. We'll
Thanks
see you
for tuning
again
in.
very
We'll
soon.
see you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Catch you. Bye.
Bye.